Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Heavenly Ever Afterthoughts. My name's Amy. This video is going to recap episode 1 of the Netflix K-drama, Heavenly Ever After. My name's Amy. Thank you for joining me today. Please consider subscribing if you want to discuss this series with me. If you don't know anything about the series, I suggest you watch the other video I posted about the reasons why people like the series before you watch this video. Oh, here comes my puppy. Here comes my love. This is Chipper. Hi, Chipper. Chipper says hello to everybody. Okay, let's recap episode 1 of Heavenly Ever After. If you haven't watched the series yet, go watch episode 1 on Netflix and then watch this video. There's going to be a lot of spoilers on the episode 1. So I do recommend you watch episode 1 before you watch this video. But if you want to just watch the video, watch the video. Maybe this video will inspire you to start watching the series. Okay, so Heavenly Ever After is the story, it's a love story of a married couple. The wife is Hae-suk and the husband is Nak-jun. They are born in the 1940s in Korea. Episode 1 kind of introduces us to this married couple. They are quite older now. They're in probably their 70s at this point. So what we learn, and I already kind of went over this in my last video, is that the husband, Nak-jun, has been bedridden and paralyzed since he was in his 30s, and his wife Hae-suk became I guess you could call her a loan shark. She gives out short-term loans to people in the community, and then every day she goes and collects on these daily loans. So as you can imagine, she's not warmly received by most people in the community because she's constantly asking them to pay their debt. Her daughter, who you learn later is their adopted daughter, is Young-ye. And Young-ye is probably in her 30s at this point. You know, her parents are in their 70s. And Young-ye helps Hae-suk go around and collect the money. She's kind of like the muscle. As I mentioned in my last video, the episode 1 starts off slow. But you have to get through episode 1 to understand what's happening in the story. It's important to watch episode 1 to understand the whole series. So you have to really push yourself to get through episode 1. But it does start slow because they're not in heaven yet. They're both alive. I think that this story gets really engaging after they both pass away and they end up in heaven. And then it really gets interesting and there's a lot of twists and turns. But the beginning episode is really just laying the foundation for the whole story. Nak-jun is an old man. He's in bed. He can't walk. And you learn that he hasn't been able to walk since he was a young man. And they've been married for many years. Food is a big part of this series. You will notice that it's very important to Hae-suk to be somebody who loves to cook. And food is kind of essential throughout the whole story. And I really want to do a deep dive into the meals that she makes and the different recipes that she makes. So far, the main thing that I know, that I'm familiar with that she makes, is kimchi. Okay, so the story starts where she's out collecting with her daughter. And there's funny parts too, because she's trying to get people to pay their debt. There are people who are angry with her. They throw things at her in the street. And she uses her umbrella to kind of deflect from like people throwing buckets of water at her and fish and things like that. It comes to the point where she comes home from work and her husband has died. Again, he's probably in his late 70s. So she has a funeral for her husband, Nak-jun, and she really doesn't want to go on with her life. And her daughter, Young-ye, realizes that she stopped taking her medicine, that Hae-suk has stopped taking her medicine. So it's kind of setting you up that Hae-suk's going to die soon. There's a very cheesy scene where Young-ye asks Hae-suk to teach her how to use her umbrella to deflect from the things that people are throwing at them on the street. Hae-suk reluctantly agrees to teach her how to do that. It's so stupid. I wish that scene was cut out. Personally, I think that Young Ye should have asked her to teach her how to cook. Because as the episodes go on, you realize that Young Ye doesn't know how to cook. But Suk really can cook everything great. So instead of learning how to open an umbrella, which is so stupid, it's the worst part of the movie is that umbrella scene, I think. I think that it should have been Suk teaching Young Ye how to cook, and they're in the kitchen. She's teaching her how to make the homemade noodles and the different soups and things that she always makes. That would be my thing. So if I had my choice, I would take the umbrella scene out of episode 1. Is there any scene out of episode 1 that you would take out? That's the one I would take out. Okay, the most interesting part of the story is where Suk dies. Because I told you she stopped taking her medicine. So Suk dies, and Young Ye has her funeral. And a man shows up that Young Ye doesn't know, but seems to know her. And that man is actually Death. And then it shows how he summons Suk's spirit, and he's going to take her to the afterlife. Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. This is like halfway through episode 1. So she's going to take a subway car to the afterlife. And of course, she's asking a lot of questions of Death because she wants to know everything, but he doesn't want to tell her any answers. So she gets on this subway car, and there's all these other people on there, and there are people praying, because what she finds out is that this subway car goes to hell and heaven. So some people are going to be getting off at hell. So there's people on the train who are like hysterically crying and terrified they're going to go to hell. And they're praying on the floor, and they're crying. And Suk takes her seat on the subway. And Death had told her that if she's going to go to hell, she will feel her body go to hell. But if she's not going to go to hell, she won't be able to go into hell. So I think that she thinks she's going to hell because of the job that she did of taking people's money and collecting on these loans, which is kind of a heartless job. And I think that she thought she's definitely going to hell. So when they get to hell, the hell station, she goes to get up because she's like, I'm going to go to hell. But she can't move. So she realizes she's not going to hell. But other people on the train get pulled out and are brought to hell to their horror. So that's all you see of hell at this point. You're going to see more of hell later in the episode. The doors close and she's on her way to heaven. So she gets to the gates of heaven, and it's kind of like a entrance to a theater. And there are all these people waiting to get in, and they tell you can't take anything with you. This is where the sad stories start. You know, like some people they want to take their worldly things with them for very sad reasons. The saddest moment has to do with the firefighter. That's the first moment that I'm watching this series that I started crying. So there's a couple moments that made me really cry. The dog scene is the worst one. I was sobbing in the dog scene, which I mentioned in my shorts. Okay, so watch the firefighter scene in episode 1. So she finally gets through the gates, and she sits down with like an administrator, and they ask her 2 questions. 1, who do you want to live with in heaven? They have to be dead, and they have to want to live with you. So she, of course, says Nak Jun, and of course she finds out, yes, he's waiting for you. And how old do you want to appear in heaven? And whatever you pick is going to be forever. So she remembers a conversation she had with Nak Jun before he died, where he said that she was the most beautiful at 80 because every year that they were together, he loved her more and more. So she was the most beautiful to him at 80. So she makes a snap decision that she wants to stay 80 because he told her that was the most beautiful she ever was. Okay? So she's going to be 80. And then, of course, the administrator's like shocked. Like, oh, 80? Okay, nobody picks 80. All right, this is the cheesy part of the story. Another cheesy part. People who pick an old age get a device to navigate, to narrate their inner thoughts. It's like, it looks like an Alexa. It's like a little button, and you have to carry it with you. I don't know why it's necessary in the story, to be honest with you. They could have just dubbed in her thoughts. They don't have to have it narrate her thoughts. So in the first episodes, you keep hearing her thoughts narrated, but by the end of the show, they get rid of it. So it kind of like disappears after a while. But through the first episodes, you're going to hear her thoughts narrated. So I don't know. That was a weird choice. why, if you look 80, you have to have this device in heaven. I don't know. I don't really get that part. I think it's kind of not necessary. They could have just narrated her thoughts like in other stories. They're like, okay, how do you want to go to heaven? And she ends up getting put into this package, and she ends up in heaven, and this guy opens the package. It's in the middle of a field. She's in heaven now. And he tells her, all right, go, your husband's waiting for you. Go find your husband. And she's like, how do I find my husband? I'm in the middle of a field. And he says, just go in the direction where you feel your heart pounding. So, and that will tell you that you're going the right way. So she's following her heart, and she comes across a house. She remembers that her husband used to talk about their dream house, because they really never had a lot of money, because she was the breadwinner and she didn't make that much money with the loan shark business. But they used to talk about the dream house. Nak June would say, you know, someday we're going to have a house with a stone wall with flowers on it. You're going to have a garden where you can grow food to cook. It's going to be 2 houses in the Korean and Western style. And everything is like the way her husband described it. There's a flowers with a stone wall and the garden and the 2 houses. And now she's panicking that maybe he doesn't want her. Maybe he's moved on without her. But then she sees a sign on the front that has both of their names. So he's waiting for her. So she rings the doorbell. He says he's going to come out. She doesn't say who she is. So he comes out. And this is the shocker of the season. So if you haven't watched it, you might want to watch it first. But the shocker of the show is that he's 30. He's 30 and she's 80. And this is a key moment where he doesn't even recognize her at first, because I think he's expecting her to be 25. When he realizes it's her, she says, "Oh, F," the F word. And you'll notice a purple, I didn't notice this the first time I watched it. When she curses, you'll notice it looks like a purple leaf falls behind her. That's a grape leaf. And that is going to be important later in the story, which we'll talk about later. So that's where it ends. So, you know, we don't know what he's going to say, what she's going to say. All we know is that there is now a married couple in heaven, supposed to live in the same house, where one is 80 years old and one is 30 years old. By the way, Nak June, he can walk. He's 30. He's back to his old self before the accident. There was an accident, and that's why he lost his ability to walk. Okay, so that's basically what happens in episode 1. So, some discussion points that I would love you guys to put in the comments what you think. One, did you think that the umbrella scene should have been a cooking scene instead, or some other kind of scene? Did anybody else cringe when they watched that umbrella scene? Because I did. 2, did you think episode 1 started off very slow like I did? Did you get much more interested in it when they both die and you see what happens in the afterlife? That's another thing I wonder. What do you think about the food, how they feature food in this series? Anybody else curious about the food that she cooks through the series? I'm kind of wondering about that. What did you think about the device that they made her carry around that narrates what she's thinking? Did you think that was a necessary part of the story? Or do you think that should have been omitted? I'm just curious what other people thought. And the reason I'm doing this channel is because nobody else in my family wants to watch the show with me. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make a channel where I'll just talk to people on YouTube who have watched the show and just see what you guys think about the show. Again, this show is on Netflix right now. So if you haven't watched episode 1, please watch episode 1. And then please, in the comments, talk a little bit about what you think about some of these points I've made and what you think about the show. Please subscribe to the channel so that you can join me for these episode discussions. Again, we just recapped episode 1. There are 12 episodes to recap, so this was episode 1. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys for my episode 2 video. See you in the next video. Bye.